Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald. This is the Talamanca Review. It's 8:27 p.m. on, what is it there, Monday, the 6th of October? My mother's birthday yesterday. I spoke to her today, sent her a message yesterday. She turned 87. The people in my mother's family are very long living. They all go close to 100. Very interesting. That's the Ross clan. So MacDonald, Macdonald, is my father's clan, and Ross, Ross, is my mother's clan. And very, very, very different people, my mother's people and my father's people. But I guess that's what family's all about, right? Mixing it all up and stuff like that. I washed my hair tonight for the first time in 2 months. I just used a bar of soap, and then afterwards, when my hair's sort of dry, not completely dry, but not dripping or anything, I just put some olive oil in my hands and add a bit of moisture to my hair because, bar soap really kind of dries out your hair. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I'm just working into the podcast tonight. Tonight's podcast has been on my mind all day. Just coming and going, like some fish I'm trying to catch. I think it's a redux, whatever that word is. I should just look up the double K phonetics on that. I think it sounded out redu. I think it's a redo of merging dimensions, because I don't think I got it right the first time. And it's more relevant and more apparent now. Now, I would hope that these podcasts have a cumulative effect, meaning that they're not one-offs, but they build on each other to form an understanding of at least, and I say at least, because I think beyond what I'm trying to describe, you really can't describe it. It has to be experienced. It is an internal journey. But the part of it that can be explained is chemical consciousness. And it's the physical and the astral. So the astral is what we talk about the most as a species, actually. We've gone way beyond the astral in terms of our consciousness and the expression of our consciousness. The West is firmly ensconced in the mental dimension now, the universal mind dimension. That's where the physics and the math has taken us, but we don't necessarily occupy it in a literal and experiential way. We're sort of like ice fishing in the universal mind. We cut a hole in the ice and drop a line with some bait, and then we pull. If something takes the bait, it's just a gecko. You never know in the rainforest. If it takes the bait, then you pull it out from the dark, cold water. You examine it, you eat it, you cut it open, you fry it up, and that's kind of our relationship with the mental world, which is the Luciferian world, which is the world of Shiva. Now remember, Lucifer can be positive or negative. It's not I would say just chuck all that Abrahamic shit out the window, especially the Christian stuff. So many people have been misled by that dogma. It's got a lot of good stuff. I'm not denying that. But it's time for us to let go of those fables and fairy tales and start to think about spirituality in an adult way. It's long overdue. Oh, you'll offend too many people. Well, the persistence of organized ignorance is offensive to me, so if you're going to offend me, why can't I offend you? But we're way past our best before date on the Abrahamic system, all of it, the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims. Islam suits the Arabic world. It's like a straitjacket for their temperament. Before Islam, if you know any, I learned all of this, by the way. I should start footnoting a little bit of this because I don't want to just sound like I'm making stuff up. I learned all of this from the Sufi Sheikh and the dervishes that I studied with for a year. We used to pray for 3 hours and then sit in a circle cross-legged and talk for 2 hours till 2 or 3 in the morning. In the Sufi system, worship takes place on Saturdays. So you go to the durga. They don't call it a mosque. They call it a durga. You go to the durga on a Saturday night. There's a little bit of talk, a little bit of food. And there are women there, but they have to sit in the back. There's all these chairs lined up, and the prayer is done just by the men. And the women are supposed to just feed off the energy. And I know that sounds a bit sexist, but that's the way they do things. And I'm not sure they're wrong. I don't know that they're right, but I'm not sure they're wrong either. Basically, long and short of it, for those of you who have seen Lawrence of Arabia, with Peter O'Toole, phenomenal movie. You'd be crazy not to watch Lawrence of Arabia. It's one of the best movies ever made. I think it came out in 1965, the year before I was born. Omar Sharif is in it. It gives you a snapshot into like the tribal people of the Arabic world, the Bedouin, and the people who lived as mobile encampments in the desert. They would live in tents and move around on camels and stuff. But Islam was the Arabic world always has been extremely tribal. You could get 150 years ago, you could get killed in the Arabic world for drinking from a well that's not yours. They actually do a little scene about that in Lawrence of Arabia. So what I'm saying is, I think Islam, you see, we're not all the same. This is something that's very difficult to talk about because all of the documents and rhetoric surrounding democracy are saying all men are created equal. And I think, that was a direct attack upon the elitism of Europe, and the British monarchy, and that's really what it was speaking to. But somehow it's morphed into something that is not true. We're not all equal. Okay? We're all human and we all deserve the same opportunities, there's no doubt. Everybody deserves the right to go to school in a public school system. If you're naturally smart, the teachers will pick up on it very quickly and you'll be sort of put into a fast learners program, a special ed program, special education. If you're more inclined to the trades, you'll be pushed in that direction. Some people are more physically gifted than others. Some people are born with better hearts. They just have a more loving nature. We're not equal. And the reason that we're not equal is because of the bloodlines that we're born into and epigenetics and karma. It's amazing to me now how in the late 20th, early 21st century, we've proven a lot of the things that the sages have been saying. You know, like the Bible says that the sins of the father are upon the sons. And the only way that the son can avoid the sins of the father is to turn his back on the law of the father, which is to leave the family and its way of living. And I did that, documented it in The Devil in Us. But still, you still have to kind of fight through. You're doing it really for the next generation. You kind of have to fight through all that stuff still, the ghosts of it. But you won't have any chance at all if you stay in the bloodline and you stay within the hierarchy of your bloodline, whether it's a patriarchy, which my house was, or a matriarchy, like the Kebakar here. The sins of the father are upon the son. And really, it's the Bible talking about epigenetics, the transference of seeding experience in the next generation through your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings while you're alive, and your ancestors. It's all there in the DNA. Now, this precipice we're on now, and it is a precipice, it's a cliff. And I would describe it as the single greatest transformation of the human race in the recorded history of the human race. And when I say recorded history, I mean the Galactic Historian. You know, that book documents 55 million years on this planet. All the shit that's gone down here, the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, when we used to have open, before the firmament fell, right? I think the firmament is a psychic shield. They describe it as water, but water is always a psychic shield. That's when in spiritual context people refer to water, they're talking about purity and escaping psychic attacks and that sort of thing. By the way, if I've never mentioned it on the Talamanca Review, if you ever find yourself under severe psychic attack, black magic, what have you, hit the bath. Take a bath. Doesn't have to be super hot water or anything, but and it's, you know, keep putting your head under the water. Very important. Put your head under the water. And the water will shield you from the psychic waves coming at you. So the firmament was a psychic barrier that guarded our realm. How long it's been gone, I don't know. So let's get into it. Like I said, this one is real butterfly wings. So you're going to see me umming and ahhing a lot and taking pauses to get the right words. It's almost like a kind of spontaneous poetry. And if I'm thinking and not talking, I'm trying to edit the language in my head so my intention is made clear, because the things that I'm trying to describe are very elliptical, hard to grasp, like a Wallace Stevens poem. Let be the finale of seem. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream. But when you get it, you get it. It's like amazing. When you get it, you get it. And it's the same thing with this stuff. So the body is an instrument of experience. So we come into these bodies and we have the experience of being alive. The body contains the experience because the body operates in a harmonic resonance with the physical environment that we're born into. The realm that we call the earth. And for your whole life, your body will resonate with this reality. And the being that you are, after about 5, 6, 7 years old, will begin to shut down the imagination, which is the radio receiver for the parts of reality that are shut out by the vibrational lockdown of the body, the senses, and the mind. Now, a sane society, a functioning society, once understanding that the body is not only an instrument of experience to be on this dimension, but also a launching pad to go into the other realms, the invisible worlds, which is all religion is trying to tell you. That's it. There's no sin you can do that will completely eradicate your opportunity to go back to source, to go back to what I call the ocean of love and mercy. And that expression comes from a book written by one of Kabir's students. Kabir, Kabir, is one of my favorite spiritual teachers. And the book was called The Anurag Sagar, or in English, The Ocean of Love. And it's only about 500 years old. It's a relatively new spiritual text. The Bible makes numerous references to inner realms. The Catholic division of the afterlife into heaven and hell is admission that there are different realms outside the body. He was caught up to the third heaven and uttered things it is unlawful to say. So the body is the instrument of experience, to have an experience in this realm we call Earth, which is allegedly in a solar system, which is allegedly in a galaxy, which is allegedly in a universe. And there are many universes. One creator, many universes. And then recently, it was discovered that there are also multiple timelines. This is one of the more recent discoveries. And it is my belief that this happened after World War II. And it happened with the technology trade. Now remember, World War II was not just a human war. There were many non-human forces influencing the outcome of what happened on this planet. People don't usually put it that simply, in such a straightforward way. World War II was a galactic war on Earth. The Nazis, as the story goes, originally retrieved material from the Vril Society, which frankly I would equate with the Palladians. The Palladians are a warring people. They're not beyond war. Now remember, when we get into this extraterrestrial thing, some people have this idea that there's something different there. But there isn't. They're the same as us. They war. They procreate. They're more technologically advanced. And we can deduce from World War II and the context that I have just given that there is some form of moral code or agreed upon spiritual understanding in the galaxy. Otherwise, why would other races get involved with a war on this planet? I am not the least bit interested in 3I or 3-1 Atlas or whatever they're calling it. Why should I be? ET contact has been going on this planet since the beginning of time. They participate in our wars. Now we know that let me rephrase that because I don't know it. It has been suggested by, his name eludes me right now, he wrote Selected by Extraterrestrials, William Tompkin, who worked in the secret space program in the aerospace industry through the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s. And he was interviewed about 7, 8 years ago by Kerry Cassidy. He came out with a book, or a book was produced. Somebody wrote a book about his adventures. And he worked with Nordics quite a bit. Another race. And he gave this cosmology in which extraterrestrials have always been a part of this planet. Reptilians. The Naga are, I think, a species native to the Earth. They're shape-shifting reptilians. And then you have the Draco reptilians, which have been probably behind most of the bloodletting. All the dark rituals, the stuff we capture in the light of darkness. So you got the Palladians, Nordics, Draco reptilians, Greys, different forms of Greys, tall whites, all these different races interacting with the human race. So why would 3-1 or 3-eye Atlas be interesting to me? Why? If you look at the involvement with extraterrestrials for, let's say, the last 80 years, '90 maybe. A lot of stuff happened in the 30s as well. There have been governments interacting with extraterrestrials all over the world, and it's going on again. The Chinese are interacting with extraterrestrials at the highest levels. Americans, certainly, the secret part of the American government, the Brits, like the Indians. Extraterrestrials are an open secret amongst the Earth's rulers and those privy to classified information. Why do we go to war? We could now be on the cusp of a war, and it would be for one of the oldest reasons in the world. We're bankrupt and we want to rebalance our debt, so we're going to go fight, which is always a losing position in a fight. It's generally understood that in combat, the aggressor usually loses. You could say we don't have any choice at this point. What are we at now in the United States? And comparable in Canada per capita, the debt levels. And I think Western Europe, all those nations are the same as well. Plus bringing in loads of immigrants. I want to make something very clear here. I do believe that we have an obligation as human beings to share what is beneficial with other human beings. I think it's wrong of the rabbis to sequester the Kabbalah just for Jews. I think it's wrong for Noahide law to state that a Gentile caught studying the Torah should be put to death. I don't think the technological advancements made in the West should not be shared with the rest of the world. I just don't think it's a good idea to bring them here being the West, not the Talamanca Mountains, to try to fit them into our system. I think something like JFK's Peace Corps was the way to go. Corporations that go and teach people how to do complicated manufacturing and processes. And there's some of that going on now, and as much as we shit on the transnational companies, they've done a wonderful job of educating some parts of the world. I mean, for crying out loud, man, Costa Rica's getting into or is into semiconductor development now, same as Taiwan. And that's by the graces of like IBM's and what's the big semiconductor company? I forget, but so extraterrestrials have always been here, and most of our experience with extraterrestrials have been negative, and the reason for that is we are a very negative species. You get what you get what you deserve. This is the law of karma. We're not a peaceful people. We seek power and dominance over other human collectives. Therefore, we would naturally be drawn to extraterrestrial races that offer the advantage of that power. And that's what happened. And that's the predicament we're in now. That there are human beings on this planet sometimes and off planet at other times, so different from us now that we wouldn't even recognize them as human beings. Physically. But their field of experience is so different that they're not really human beings anymore. To say that they're well-traveled would be a massive understatement. And this ET association has been a big part of the world we're moving into. You get what you deserve. We're moving into a highly restricted world. A world where every breath you take will be documented. Every ounce of water you drink will be documented. Everything you buy will be documented. Everything you do will be documented. It's like a global probation system. And it's not human. It's not human. At its top levels, it is not human. Now you can debate till the cows come home. I'm going to say this as clearly as I've ever said it. If you live in a cosmology, consciousness living, if you live in a cosmology, because we really live in our heads, I don't really live in an earthbag house. I live inside the body that is Bruce McDonald in this incarnation. And that consciousness is a cosmology, which is a way of understanding reality. Mine is very non-normative, but I don't talk about it much with strangers, and I try to fit in because human beings are very intolerant of difference, except for a few exceptions. Maybe you can be a little bit different if you become a rock star, like Ozzy Osbourne. But for most of us, we have to toe the line. Rebellion is sort of quashed out by about 28 or 30, if even earlier in some people. Have you guys ever heard about white noise and spirit boxes? There was a movie with Michael Keaton called White Noise that really sort of focused on this. But it's the idea that you can, through certain radio transmissions, channels that are empty, they don't have a voice coming through. And this has been documented for over 100 years. We've had radio waves. I don't know, I think the radio came in around 1905, so we've had it for 120 years. But there are many, many, many documented examples of the voices of spirits coming through the white noise of an empty radio channel. It's a little bit like the whole reverse speaking thing, right? And there is a kind of an inversion layer that things go through when there's a cross-dimensional communication. It's beyond linguistics. Now, I don't recommend you fool around with this stuff because anything on the other side that wants to talk to you has nothing going on the other side. And the other side, if you've lived correctly, is a beautiful place and you wouldn't be bothered with what's going on the earth. There's your first indication that whatever is trying to talk to you is not good for you. But you can't tell human beings this because they're human beings. We're a highly experimental and risk-taking species. Look at extreme sports. And the occult is a form of extreme sport for consciousness. I don't see it as evil. I just see it as misadventure. But if you can attest to the validity of white noise and spirit boxes, then you must deduce, as I have deduced, that in this technology, this mass communication technology, very simply begins with the radio for projecting the voice. There's a beautiful chapter in Stardust Ranch about this called Crossroads. I've talked about this on my podcast before. And the radio was the first instance of a projected voice. Before the radio, before the telephone, you could not hear a human voice unless you were in speaking distance, making something in the kitchen with your family. And I want you to think about this for a moment, because this is epic once your consciousness, your mind gets around it. How many voices have you heard in your life? Thousands, right? We've heard many politicians. We've heard many artists. You've heard me. Most of you have never met me, but you know me. How do you know me? Well, you know me because I use the technology of voice projection, and in this case, picture projection as well, And we virtually interact through a virtual system of networks and production platforms. In my case, a Mac Mini, beautiful 27-inch Xiaomi monitor, and a, what do you call these microphones again? Blue Yeti microphone. And an iPhone 13 mini as my camera. And here I am, I'm talking to you. Now I want you to think about how many voices a human being would hear in their entire life in 1900. Not that many. You could read. You could read the newspaper. But you would only know your family, your neighbors, and the people in your town or village. Now, if you lived in a big city, you'd meet a lot of different kinds of people. If you lived in New York, you might meet Bill the Butcher, Gangs of New York, Daniel Day-Lewis. But you get the picture, right? Your life and your consciousness would be highly restricted in terms of experience. Now I want you to think about today, the time in which we live. And how many voices have you heard? It's thousands. Joe Rogan, Bruce McDonald, Cormac McCarthy, the Coen brothers, Paul Thomas Anderson, Martin Scorsese, Daniel Day-Lewis, Ozzy Osbourne, Ted Hughes, Wallace Stevens. For those of you aware of a Canadian philosopher and media theorist by the name of Marshall McLuhan, he spoke about this in the 70s. He talked about a global village emerging. And he was right. Now I'll ask you this. Why would a force hell-bent on controlling us allow this technology to slip out into the world and allow us to hear so many voices? And allow us to see so many political revolutions? Nepal being the latest. Why give us all that information if the intent is to control us? I think the answer is because they know we don't know how to interpret it. Because despite the flow of information, if you don't have a tactile experience of a place, you don't understand what's going on. And tactile is sensory. You touch it. You can touch it. You've interacted with it directly. You felt it. You can't really feel me through my podcast. My words may move you. I hope they do. But you can't really feel me. Right? Very interesting when you think about it. Many of you are aware of my friend Robert Wiegand, Bob. You've heard him speak, but you've never felt him. Unless you've been in a room with him, you've never felt Bob. And Bob is a very unique feeling. John Edmonds was a very unique feeling. Andrew Bartzis was a very unique feeling, even though I never physically met him or physically met John Edmonds, but those were telepathic relationships. Those were highly advanced people, and unbeknownst to me, I'd prepared my consciousness already for that kind of communication through decades of meditation. The door was already open, it was already unlocked. Meeting those people just helped me realize that about myself. So I have felt them. Most of us, what we're dealing with is a projection of something that we have no feeling of. And absent the feeling of it, you don't really know what you're dealing with. We think we do, but we don't. Merging dimensions. Believe it or not, I have not been off topic this whole podcast. Like I said, it's butterfly wings. So you got that spirit box. You got a voice coming through it. As Dr. Jack Kruse has pointed out to us, they have learned how to communicate subliminally through digital television. And they have learned how to pacify the mind through the blue screen technology. It won't work if you're spiritually disciplined. It won't work on you. But 1 out of every 10,000 people is actually spiritually disciplined. Spiritually disciplined is you practice spiritual hygiene every day. Every day. How many people do you know like that? I'm not talking about going to an ayahuasca retreat in Guanacaste province in Costa Rica either. That's probably more deleterious to your protection in the situation I'm describing than beneficial. So that's why they project all the information, because it's controlled. And it's controlled in ways that we don't quite understand. And ultimately what the flood of information does, because it's unnatural to a human being to be experiencing the whole world through media, a revolution in Somalia, a tribal warfare in Rwanda in the 90s, and, the list goes on and on and on. Ukraine, Gaza, Israel. Unless you're there, you don't really know what's going on. And that's the simple truth of it, that all of this technology has created a stratum of consciousness that leaves us highly susceptible to manipulation. And this is just stage 1. Okay? So what does the example of spirit voice and the white noise tell us? Well, I think it has something to do with James Clerk Maxwell as well, one of the early pioneers of the science of physics. Lived in the 1870s. He was a Scotsman. No James Clerk Maxwell, no atomic bomb, no Einstein, none of these guys. But you don't know that name, do you? And do you know why you don't know that name? It's because of the particular physics focus that Maxwell had. And his focus was electromagnetism. And he theorized that electricity, light, and I forget what the third thing is, but were all one energy in different forms, like water can be ice, liquid, or vapor. Magnetism, electricity, and light were all the same thing according to Maxwell. Revolutionary spiritual science. Now, Maxwell was a mind on par with, or even beyond, Tesla. You've never heard about him, have you? Now we live in a world of vast electrical systems, like the platform by which I'm communicating to you tonight. Now, the voice that is coming to you through me is benign, loving, cares about you, wants what's best for you as a human being. I can't fulfill any personal things. That's for family, that's for spouses, that's for children, that's for uncles. But as one human being to another, I genuinely want the best for you. I've been that way my whole life. I just want the best for people. But 99.9% of the stuff that comes to you through the same electronic projection system is not benign or good for you at all. Now, where is this electrical system, which is magnetism, which is light, which in its early formation, the transistor radio could allow spirit to speak from the other side? Where are these new cybernetic systems going? Where are these new silicon corpuses going? Okay? The AI system that's coming in is going to give agency to non-corporeal spirit. It could be collectives. They could be benign. They could be malignant. There could be individual powerful spirits taking over a whole AI system, the whole corpus of an AI, and interfacing with the physical world. But the principal characteristic of a God is love. And whatever comes through this system won't really love us. And just the ETs don't really love us. You got to understand that. There's no spiritual salvation in extraterrestrials. They've known about our existence on this planet for millions of years. They may from time to time intervene a little bit, and they did in World War II. But I suspect, and you can call me cynical if you want, I don't mind, but I suspect that was because what was transpiring on the earth, they had figured out would eventually affect them, vibrationally and or through whatever tapestry of causal interconnectedness this galaxy and universe exists upon. Entanglement theory. They were here for self-interest, not for us. Okay? Now, what this system is going to be able to do, because the silicon corpus will allow it to have agency in the world. Now remember all the excellent information I've given you on this podcast about agency. We are the agents on this planet. Okay? When you meet a powerful psychic, they're not out there. They're getting the information from an entity that they're interacting with. Okay? So that's another example of a human being acting as a spirit box. This is the way it's all done. All of it. The only exception is the God-infused individual. And the God-infused individual will never interfere with your growth patterns. It will only help them, only wants what's best for you, because that's what God is. It's what's best for us. This thing coming down the pipe now, who knows what it is? I suspect they already have the entity that's going to occupy the silicon corpus. The world has been in the hands of ritual magicians for almost 400 years, since the Bank of England. And they're about power, because magic is always about power, because the fundamental characteristic about magic is altering reality to your benefit. Even if the reality you're altering is the perception of people looking upon you, which explains everything I just spoke about a few minutes ago about this electronic platform we all communicate on now. So let's go back to demonology, and I don't mean to get scary, but when a demon has access to the consciousness that is supposed to be in a body, the demon has access to the body. What can the demon do? Well, the demon can make things, just listen to the stories of the exorcists. The demon can make things levitate, can make things move around, all of that stuff. I don't think The Exorcist is a huge exaggeration. That the real story is even more phenomenological. It was a boy, not a girl, and it took place, I think, in Baltimore in a hospital, and they had to evacuate the entire fifth floor. What was inside that boy was so powerful. And so the physical environment is being affected. Levitation, telekinesis, thought projection, inducing heart attacks in exorcists. This is agency. You see where I'm going with this? So AI will not just represent computational ability and cognitive reasoning devoid of human emotion, which we think is what's going on behind the cover of the computer in the circuitry and in the central processing units. That's not what's going to be going on. We're going to be creating a powerful agency for something to express itself in this world. And so you're going to be dealing with artificial synchronicities. Think about that. You're going to be dealing with a reality that is chaotically unfolding, because something unnatural to this place is here. Because the process to have agency in this world is birth. You have to arrange to incarnate in this world. You have to have spiritual right to incarnate on this world. And then you grow up, you become human. And in that growing phase, you develop empathy and compassion, most people, for their fellow human beings. And whatever power or consciousness comes into you is filtered through the experience of being human from childhood onwards. This is a whole other kettle of fish. People unprepared are going to go insane. But in the end, because everything serves life and the creator, even the disincarnate entity is still in life, it just doesn't have 3D form. It's still alive, it's still a living being. Yeah, it cracks me up when I hear this bullshit about extraterrestrials using AI on their ships and everything. And I mean, if it's true, what it's telling you is that even these extraterrestrials need to depend on foreign agency outside of their corpus or form. Right? Now, what's happening now to the rest of us who are just passively or peacefully going through our lives is we're being rapidly taken through the astral, our own personal astrals. And this is why trauma healing is so important. Because as this situation I'm describing ramps up, it's going to have the tendency to manifest your imagination. You get that? Go back and watch the Awakened Imagination series I did. So if your imagination, and we create things on the astral through our hatred, through our lack of forgiveness. Anytime an emotion hits a wall, anytime human feeling hits a wall, a pressure builds up, just like a dam. And that pressure is an energy. And the things that are in your mind are literally feeding off that energy of the emotional blockage. And you're creating your own demons. There are real demons. That's a whole other topic. But these are self-created demons. But really, they're alive. They meet all the qualifications of a life form by universal dictate, because we are creators beyond just physical. We're creating also on the astral while we're physically alive. This is why there's so many egregores and zombies and crazy shit there. So what's going to happen is the human being to come is going to transcend the silicon being, the silicon corpus. Because we are a species that grows by stress. We literally grow by being challenged. We all hate it. Oh, here comes another war. Here comes this. Here comes that. But the truth is, this human race grows by being challenged. And this next growth spurt we're going through is going to merge the astral and the physical. And so every human being who gets through it is going to be telepathic, is going to be able, highly intuitive, very hard to bullshit, and living in a completely different concept of time, or abandoning the concept of time, as Uncle Cliff beautifully articulated in yesterday's podcast. But to get there, we got to go through what's coming, because it's our BUDS. You know, BUDS is the training camp for Navy SEALs. This is the way the whole thing works. Remember, the left hand and the right hand work together. There's no antagonism between God and the devil. It's what I tried very hard to explain in The Devil in Us. If you haven't read it, read it, please. It's a different kind of book. It's not like any nonfiction you've ever read before, I promise you. It will change your life. Highly energetically charged. There's many spiritual gifts in the book that will be received by your subconscious. The opposite of what I described this electronic system doing to us, which is manipulation. So this is what I tried to capture, I don't know, a couple months ago when I did that Merging Dimension podcast, but I wasn't ready. It was, but tonight I really nailed it down a lot better. And so this is what's going on. It's going on in your personal life. It's going on in everybody's lives now. And if you know somebody in whom it's not going on, you've met a non-playing character. You may have met an unsouled human being, and there's lots. There's also all kinds of hybrids on the planet now. Hybridized consciousness. Okay? It's not necessarily anything to fear. We've always been hybrids down here. Not necessarily hybridized consciousness per se, but genetic hybrids. All right, that's my podcast for tonight. I'm going to call it Merging Dimensions Redu. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.